2020. We're in volume 3, page 117. We're in the middle of Hilchos Avelus number 1. We talked about aninus, which is the period of time from the death of a relative until the burial. So we mentioned the basic restrictions of the aninut period, of not reciting brachot. You're patur from mitzvahs, right? Not performing mitzvahs, not eating meat or drinking wine. What are some of the details regarding these halachot? So we're on page 117, Michael. Shulchan Aruch rules that one may not eat or drink in the presence of the body. Right? There's a mace that is related to you that you have a chiyuv of Avelus, the 7 primary relatives. Prior to the burial, he should not eat he should not eat in the home where the body is. He should eat in another home. If he doesn't have another house, he should eat in his friend's house. So he builds a wall between him and the body and eats. Even a sheet. As long as you tuck the sheets in so that the wind doesn't blow, so it's got to be secure. You don't have to fast. You have to turn your face away from the goof, away from the body, and eat that way. Because he does not recline. For example, the Seder night, we recline in a matter of royalty. So wherever you are, even if you're in a different city, but you're in that period of aninus, you should not recline. So far, the dinim of aninus are clear. We don't drink wine, we don't eat meat, and we are patur from all mitzvahs. Rashi explains the reason for the prohibition of eating in front of the deceased is that it is a lack of kavod. It's disrespectful to them. Says Rashi in Brachas, Oichel b'vayis acher, denire kaloig l'rosh. He's mocking. He's mocking the person because the dead person can't eat. So if you're eating in front of him, it's like also we'll see. You shouldn't tefillin, tzitzis. It's a problem doing those things in front of the mace because the mace has no ability to do that. So it's making the mace feel bad. Ve'eno mesiv, the way people lean as an important personage where they would lean on a couch. Al-tzido asmolis, of course, leaning to the left side. It's because the way the bronchus is formed. If you lean to the right, there's a bigger risk that the food could go straight down. That's why we lean to the left. It's an anatomical thing. Uvemita, you shouldn't recline on a sofa. Another interesting detail concerning the period of aninus is the halach of natilas yadayim. Although one would think that this is considered a positive mitzvah that an onen would not be allowed to do, the Pischei Tshuva claims that in reality an onen must perform natilas yadayim prior to eating bread. We don't make a motzi, but you have to do natilas yadayim. Since it's part of a rabbinic decree not to eat prior to washing hands, and therefore the status of a prohibition. Without a bracha. You don't make the bracha, but you wash your hands. In a sense, the natilas yadayim is like a matir. It's a permitter. Shuv ra'iti b'sefer Birkei Yosef, Osei, shekosov depshitale the onen chayv natilas yadayim. He says it's a simple thing that the onen does have to do natilas yadayim. The natilas yadayim have mishum gezeira, mishum srach truma, because of the dinim that prior to touching or eating truma, you have to have a certain tahara. So we want to keep that memory alive. So that's one of the reasons why we do natilas yadayim. Ulefiza to have gzeir drabanan. It's only a gzeira in sofik the chayiv. The kulu lavin midaraisa udrabanan hoin chayiv. Any negative, when we say that the onen was patur from mitzvahs, it's only positive mitzvahs. All the negative commandments, of course, not being able to eat chazer, not being able to eat trephus, those all remain for an onen. An onen is not permitted to violate a negative commandment, and therefore, any rabbinic negative, so for example, they'd say, don't eat bread unless you wash your hands, that remains. Vehevi dehamari al pandri nistapik b'zeh. Right? There was one of the Rishonim who was mesupik about Netilas Yadayim. Uveshut Bechtam Ladavid, his scheme came, the Chayiv. We call Mokam near the only Nitol Yodav Lo Yivarech. As Chaim said, you don't make a bracha Netilas Yadayim, but you do wash your hands. The Yalkut Yosef, the son of Avaya Yosef, mentions another example of a prohibition that an Oni must make to observe in addition to Netilas Yadayim. For example, waiting in between the consumption of meat and dairy. If one ate meat prior to the death of one's relative, he may not eat dairy for 6 hours or 3 hours. For example, we are Yekis, so we wait 3 hours. The Dutch wait 1 hour. So, meaning it's another example of a negative prohibition that just because we say you're potter from all mitzvahs, you're not potter from the lavim. Right? After only potter we call mitzvahs asay. Hamur's potter we call mokum eno potter mi mitzvahs lo asay. He's not exempt from negative commandments. Va'afilu misuri rabbanon. Lachay noitel yodav b'shachris, v'lesuuda. If he has to wash his hands in the morning, because that's a gzeira, ruach ra, or for a suda, if he eats the right product of bread that would require Netilas Yadayim. Aval lo yivarch alat, you shouldn't say the Netilas Yadayim bracha. V'gam lo yivarch hamotzi, of course. Chen onen shenitzrach l'nekavav. Now, if he goes to the bathroom, he has to wash his hands. You don't make the bracha. If he had eaten meat an hour before, and then the person died, he still has to wait another 5 hours before he can eat milk. Same din. The Rishonim cited by the Tur dispute whether an Oneh is prohibited to perform actions that a mourner is prohibited to do during the days of Shiva. For example, bathing, haircuts. Kosav Rambam, shekol zman shaloi nigbar ameis, eino osir b'chol advarim she'ovel osir. So an ovel, once the burial happens, and now Shiva begins, there's a new period of prohibitions. You can't bathe, you can't take a haircut, you can't shave. Question is, we didn't discuss those issues during Aninos. All we said is you're potter from all mitzvahs. You don't eat meat. You don't drink wine. What about these things? Does that already start? Or perhaps you're allowed to bathe and shave and take a haircut during the Aninus. So says the Tur, quoting the Rambam, that as long as the mace was not buried, he's not osir b'chol advarim she'ovel osir b'hem. V'chein kosav aritz geyes, she'ena osir ben misa l'kvor b'tachboses. For example, laundered. You're not allowed to wear laundered clothing during the shiva. Uv'tisports a haircut. Uv'rachitza. Uv'tash mishamita, having relations. Uv'shar gzeras shiva. These are things that you're not allowed to do in Avelus. That means when shiva starts. But the Rambam says clearly that these things are not noyeg during the Aninus period. However, because of our Ramban, that shkogahi mashi tir b'tash b'shamita. The Ramban takes issue with what the Rambam said, that tash b'shamita is permitted during the Aninus period. The Ramban says it's a mistake. The kula alma b'chol osir bo. During weekday, so we'll see, because Shabbos, there's a special din of tash b'shamita on Shabbos. But b'chol, everyone will agree, he says that it's osir, and even during the Aninus period. Says the Ramban that all of those things that we thought only start once Shiva starts, means after the burial, he says some of them even are noig as noinit. Kugon rachitza, washing, the sicha, kavachomer, machilas basar, shtias yain. He says it's a kavachomer. If you can't eat meat and can't drink wine, then certainly you should not be able to wash and anoint yourself. You can't go to a wedding or to a haircut. Below amru elo she'ena cholitz minol the sandal. That which the Ramban is saying, that which they said certain things are permitted, he wanted to say it has to do with you don't have to take off your shoes. Veinachayv batifas rosh. They used to wear a special turban during Shiva. Ukfiyas amita, they used to take the mattress off of the bed. Vihikilu be'elu. So these things, what we did say, shoes, the bed, Those were mekel. B'nei shehu torud be'iskei hameis. Since he's occupied with burial details, mutal of the kovro, the responsibility is on him. V'leilech be'ir le'ir. He has to maybe go travel from city to city. V'im basel hachmar alav b'chlitzis minol v'sandal. If you're going to say that he has to take off his shoes, v'tivas aroj. Av iskei hameis nifsodim bekach. He's going to say, he says that the burial details will suffer. Lefichach lo chmir alav ke'elu. So we see have a machlokas rishonim, the Rambam, the Ritz Gaius versus the Ramban, regarding how stringent do we have to be during the Aninus period. The Ramah rules in accordance with the Ramban that the restrictions of Shiva mostly apply to an Onin as well. Kol sheken she'osr b'tash b'shamita, v'yesh omrim da'osr b'chitza v'sicha v'simcha v'shel shalom v'tisports v'melacha, aval muter lotzeis mi pesach beiso. So the Ramah says, so for example, during Shiva you don't leave your house. During the Aninus period, he says you're allowed to leave the house. The Yalkut Yosef states that even the Shulchan Aruch agrees with the Ramah regarding this halacha, and proceeds to discuss some details of what to do in difficult situations. Onein osur b'rachitza.
So you shouldn't visit someone that's an onen, right? You shouldn't go visit someone. Like someone has to wait till the burial. You don't go to the house and talk to him and things like that.
Why not?
Because his mind is, trying to figure out all
Details.
Huh?
Yeah, we don't. It seems like there was a concern about leaving the onain free to carry out the burial details. So that's why he's saying maybe not visiting him. Doesn't
No,
say
because someone died and they buried it. They were burying the body a few days later, and someone said, "Oh, you could go and visit him. He's in the house."
it doesn't say you can't visit him. We haven't seen any halacha that says no visitation yet. All we're talking about is the personal details regarding the onin himself. What is he allowed to do? What he's not allowed to do. So far, we don't see any restriction of visitation. You're correct that we want to make him free to do whatever he has to do it. It doesn't say yet that you can't visit him. What it does say so far is that it seems like the same restrictions that an Ovel has once Shiva starts, that has now been extended into the Aninus period, even though the Rambam said no, those things would be permitted. So let's see what the Yalkut Yosef says. Onin osur b'rachitza, an onin still also can't wash, can't anoint himself with oils. She'ela shalom, you shouldn't say shalom aleichem to him. Tispores, taking a haircut. Umalach, you shouldn't go to work. Afilu koydem akvura. Chen osur lo lachlif es godel levgodim mechubasim. He shouldn't take off his clothes and put on freshly laundered clothes. V'chein minig Yerushalayim lachmer b'zeh.
If you can't greet a friend, doesn't that mean people shouldn't come over and visit with him? Should not come over?
Well, remember, during Shiva, you're also not allowed to greet him.
Okay.
And not only that, we'll see, you're not allowed, when you go to a Shiva, you also
Right.
shouldn't say Shalom Aleichem.
Exactly. Okay.
Listen to this. Sometimes, prior to informing a person that their relative died, Yoimrulo, Shematzav Acholam Mesukim. So what you might tell him is, your relative is still very sick. V'odiv she stop every srachetz, and you say, go take a haircut, and go wash. V'yaflich, allow him to change his clothes. The ma'achar shadai lo noidol lo maptira. He hasn't been officially informed that his relative has died. Mutter lo li-stop, he can take a haircut. U'lisrachetz and wash. U'lahachlif his godav to change his clothes. Godav mechubosim to laundered clothes. And it might be lispalo shachris u'levarech. Maybe he's just eaten. He can bench. He can daven a shachris. V'imkornodolosh misachin mikroivav. U'godav svukim b'zeyav. Yeshkan kovad abrias. Now, let's say they already informed him. It was too late. They told him that the relative died. And he's wearing like dirty, sweaty clothes. You should give, the guy has freshly laundered clothes, let somebody else put them on real quick. He should wear it for an hour, his friend. Then he could put on clothing that his friend has now worn. He can sort of take a wet cloth and clean himself off, but not take a full, wash. Let's say he was informed about the patir of a relative and he's wearing a beautiful new suit. And he doesn't want the kriya to take place with the new garment. He's allowed to change that garment and even to put on a laundered garment in order for the kriya. Because asher karo, right? What's the problem of wearing freshly laundered clothes? Oh, because you want to look nice. Well, here you're only putting on because you're gonna rip it. So to put on freshly laundered, if you know that it's going to be ripped, you're allowed to put on the freshly laundered clothing. And there's no hana from the kibbutz. If you could, give that laundered clothing to somebody else to wear it for half an hour, and then he could switch it easier. He could make it dirty on the ground, the garment. And then, I guess then you would switch it because it's not covered abrius. So in contrast, the Teimani custom is that the owner is not subject to the restrictions of Shiva, as noted by Rav Yitzchak Ratzabi in the Shulchan Aruch HaMekutzer. Das Rabbeinu Rambam, because remember, the Teimanim are famous for following the Rambam. They follow, because remember, the Rambam wrote Igeret HaTeiman, right? They were going to convert, and he told them it's okay, and you should hold strong, and whatever. So the Teimanim are very, very, if the Shita is the Rambam, they follow the Rambam. She'ein adam ischayev ba'avelus el mistimas hagolel. That the dinim normally of avelus, of no tash mishamita, and no bathing, and no and taking off your shoes, that's usually only once the burial is complete. So he's allowed to take a haircut, urachitz, and wash. That's how the Teimanim paskin. So, despite the restriction upon an onin of performing mitzvos aseh, there are still certain mitzvos that an onin is permitted to fulfill. There's a special sefer on Avelus called Me'olam Va'ad Rav Gavriel Goldman. It says ha'onin osur b'talmud Torah chutz midinei Avelus. So an onin can learn dinei Avelus. Shiachal lomod achitir la'onin lomar divrei Torah be'hesped. They even permitted an onin to say divrei Torah at the hesped. Kivin shul kavod anifter. Yesh oisrim lakroivim ha'oninim loymar tehillim. Some say that the relative should not say tehillim. V'yesh matirim. He also says that's a machlok. Yes, so.
Very interesting thing about Talmud Torah because we've seen this by Tisha B'Av, right?
Well, Tisha B'Av is because of Avelus.
Right.
Yeah.
But you wonder in this day and age where people really aren't used to learning Torah every single day. You actually might even argue that actually it's more appropriate maybe during Shiva to actually even be learning Torah.
Right now, so you're allowed to learn, Hilchos Avelus, Gittin, certain parts, the same thing for Tisha B'Av. Yeah, but
To be lenient, if there's a crowd of people and they want to do a Torah, or someone's telling you to read Torah on the parsha and you're listening, to be lenient, I think in this day and age, really, people are spending hours there learning Torah. It's not something halakha we have
right.
today.
Although I have to tell you, those of us in the Daf Yomi, the Tisha B'Av, those 3 days, it's a big issue for us, right? We fall behind. It's right because you can't. Usually, it's the Erev Tisha B'Av you can't learn, and Tisha B'Av itself. So we're, I'm just saying, if it's for those that do learn daily, the restriction of Talmud Torah is a big hassle. Okay, could you pass? But I hear exactly what you're saying, Chaim. No, a cup, please.
Cup.
A cup.
Oh, a cup.
A cup. I'm sorry, cup. Harold, could you pass the Sprite, please?
Sprite?
Yes.
It's like people would say, that's enough. I don't think it's enough.
Yeah.
You have a day off from work, okay. It's like,
Exactly. Ha'onen yochel latet tzedakah bizman aninut. The onen can give tzedakah. It's interesting, right? It's a mitzvah. Ha'onen lovish talis cotton b'li bracha. Puts on his tzitzis, but doesn't make a bracha on it. Mutter lo'onen linon na'alayim keragil. An onen can wear shoes. Chalitzas ben alayim noheges rak achrei kvura. So he paskins like the shita that the Avelus only starts, that part of the Avelus only starts after the Kvura. Shaz matchil linhog dina Avelus. V'yesh mi shekosav, shekayom sheyesh nale bad nochos, now that there are comfortable shoes that are not leather, ein menila onen linhog nale bad l'levaya. The onen can wear those shoes to the funeral. So that way he'll already be without leather shoes. So
What do? We wear shoes, we wear tennis shoes at a funeral? We wear leather shoes?
so he's saying you can already start wearing
We're talking about here, are we still talking
the onen.
about
We're talking about the
Friday?
onen before burial.
Not Sephardic.
Huh?
Not
Not
Friday.
Friday, so everybody would.
Well, the Ramah, remember, the Ramah said that we're osir, berchitza sicha simcha shel shalom tispros malacha. He didn't say anything about nilas. He didn't specifically mention. Remember, the Rambam said everything's mutter, that you're allowed to wear shoes. The Ramban said no, and the Ramah said we hold it on Nina's prohibition. He didn't specifically mention nilas nalalayim, and this Ma'olav Adolam says you're an onen me'ikra din can wear shoes, but because today we now have nice shoes that are not leather, he can wear that as well to the funeral. And already, since now after the funeral there's definitely an isser to wear shoes, he'll be ready to go. Now, we're on page 121. On Shabbos, all opinions agree that the aninut restrictions are mostly not observed, as one cannot deal with the burial preparations on Shabbat. This is true even according to those who apply the restrictions to those who are not involved in the preparations, based on the reason of giving honor to the deceased. So, the Gemara in Bracha says, Uva Shabbos, the onen, again, we're talking about somebody who has, the burial has not taken place. Mesev, he can lean, v'leichel basar, v'shasu yayin, u'mavarech, u'mezamein, u'mavarchen alav, u'mezayin alav, he can participate in the zimun, v'chai v'chol mitzvahs u'muspertar. So on Shabbos, these things of the aninas go away. He's chayv in mitzvahs, not potter in mitzvahs. Says the Shulchan Aruch, he agrees. Shabbos v'yontiv, oichel basar v'shasu yayin, says the Ramah, im yirtze, if he want, u'mavarech, he can bench, v'chai mikol mitzvahs chutz mitash v'shamita she'asr bo. So the Ramah says Tash B'Shamita is prohibited, because remember the Ramah extended the prohibition. The Rambam said it was permitted. The Ramah said it's prohibited. So here he says it's prohibited even on Shabbos. It says Umutar leilech lebeis haknesses b'Shabbos. He can go to shul. V'af b'chol ein bo iser, even during the week. Let's say it's Thursday and he's no name. There's no iser. Rak ma'acher she'asur v'yispalo ma'yas Hashem. He says if he can't daven, remember he's potter from tefillah. What's he going to do in shul?
Right.
Okay.
Let it talk.
The Rosh, citing the Maram of Rottenburg, that although the mitzvah of Havdalah is connected to Shabbos, an onen does not recite Havdalah or recite Ma'ariv after Shabbos. Rather, he should wait and recite the Havdalah after the burial. Let's say the burial is Sunday or even Monday. At that point, he should recite the Havdalah. He can recite Havdalah all the way till Tuesday night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Barav Meir mi Rottenburg Kosav Bahilchos Smochos Shalo, right, the dinim of Avelus that he wrote, that Mish Yesh Lo Beis B'Shabbos, V'lo Nikbar Ad Lamoch, is not going to be buried until Sunday, V'lo Hivdu B'Motzei Shabbos, nearly Shemuter Lechol B'lo Havdalah. So normally we have a restriction, we don't eat until we make Havdalah. So if he's not allowed to make Havdalah, is he allowed to eat? So he says yes, he can eat. Darminan B'Perk Mishemesu, Mishemesu Muter Lefonov, someone who's an onain, right, the base hasn't been buried yet, that's what that means, Meso Muter Lefonov, Potter Mikol Mitzvah Shabbatorah. Raminan Alab Yerushalmi, Kol HaPotter Min HaDavar, V'Oseu Nikra Hedyod. If you're potter from something and yet you do it, you're a simpleton. It's not a good thing. Uviyama Machras, Lachar Shenigbar Meso Osir Lechol Ad Sheyavdil. Now, he says, after the burial he should be Mavdil, and at that point, that's when the restriction of not eating until you make Havdalah comes in. It means normally when you come home Motzei Shabbos, you're not allowed to eat anything until you make Havdalah. So that doesn't operate for him. He's allowed to eat, even though he doesn't make Havdalah. The burial takes place the next day. Now there's a chiyuv havdalah. Now he's not going to be allowed to eat until he makes the havdalah. And the Shulchan Aruch rules that way as well, like the Rosh. Mishal meis lo meis b'Shabbos, yoichel v'motzei Shabbos b'lo havdalah. He v'lo yispay shouldn't daven ma'ariv. V'lo b'boiker not shachris, according to Kvura. Lo achar Kvura yispalel tefillah shachris. After Kvura you should daven shachris, as long as it's not too late. Im lo avar zmana. Aval tefillah sa'erev lo yispalel. He can't go back and daven ma'ariv because shekvar avar zmana, because that time has already elapsed. Or the Yalkut Yosef rules somewhat differently how an onin should conduct oneself. Misha meisel meis b'Shabbos or b'yontiv, or shekrovo nifter b'yom hashishi, v'terem nigbar, or either they died on Shabbos or they died on Friday and he wasn't buried yet. Eino noig din aniyos b'Shabbos v'chayv kol mitzvos kulon v'spalel karogim kedaven on Shabbos v'yochel loimer kaddish b'Shabbos. He can recite kaddish. This is a dispute cited by the Gilyon Maharshat and Shulchan Aruch. We may get into that later. Normally the onen is prohibited to eat meat and drink wine, but since it's Shabbos, he's allowed to. Motzei Shabbos, here's the point where he disagrees with the Shulchan Aruch. He says, Yagdim lispalel arvis mibod yom miplaga mincha. He should already daven ma'ariv when it's still Shabbos, right? You're allowed to be, remember Rav Matzli Shabbos be'erev Shabbos. He used to bring, and the same thing, you can daven ma'ariv even while it's day, as long as it's after plaga mincha. V'yavdil ala kos acharat tefillah. He should make it Havdalah because it's still Shabbos ala kos. Of course, he doesn't use eish. Ach kamuvan lo yivarch al psamim v'ner, because really it's still Shabbos. Period. Now, if he didn't do that eitzah, v'im lo hivdil, v'yotzar Shabbos, and Shabbos is now over, Rishai lechol v'lishos b'li Havdalah. He can eat and drink without Havdalah. V'mameis nigbar motzei Shabbos. If the funeral is motzei Shabbos, he's palal arvis. At that point, he can daven ma'ariv. And v'yavdil achar kvur make Havdalah. V'im nigbar b'yom rishon. Yavdil achar gvila. Afilam tam koidem. He should still make Havdalah even if he ate something. The Mishnah Berurah argues that one should not daven ma'ariv while it's still Shabbos. He doesn't like this eitzah that the Yalkut Yosef brought. But one should recite Kriyat Shema without the accompanying brachos. Kosav Aturei Zav the Taz, says the Mishnah Berurah, Kiven sheyesh alav chiyuv ba'esahi, he's going to have a chiyuv Kriyat Shema. Yesho likros Kriyat Shema shel arvis be'od yom. He says you should say Kriyat Shema while Shabbos is not over yet. It's still light. Avol pishein akal korin Kriyat Shema b'layla. Right? Normally the tzibur doesn't read until nightfall. Kol mokum zeh sheyeh poter b'layla. This guy is going to not have a chiyuv at night. Lo yuvatul mimenu ol malchus shamayim. There's a special issue. What Kriyat Shema isn't just Kriyat Shema. It's acceptance of the whole yoke of heaven, and this guy is not getting it. Aval mimogin Avram, the commentary on the Shulchan Aruch says, the Ein Sover Kate, he doesn't agree to this. The Chen Kosav Eliyahu Rabbah, who was another Achron who commented on Halach and Shulchan Aruch, he says the lo yikra Kriyat Shema uvirchos mibod yom. He should not say Kriyat Shema and its brachos while it's still light. The kol shekein shlo yispalel tefillah shmona esrei, and not daven ma'ariv. But says the Mishnah Berurah himself, the Chofetz Chaim, Nira, the yikra Kriyat Shema below brachos. He thinks you should say Kriyat Shema without the brachos. U'v'motzei Shabbos yoichel below Havdalah, v'lo yispalel. Don't say ma'ariv. U'la'achar shikav rameis yavdil. Afilo ad sof yom shlish, like we said until Tuesday. So we see a three-way machlokas. Really, it's not a three-way machlokas. Exactly how the onin should fear himself, Motzei Shabbos, and you know. So there's a multitude of opinions regarding that. Interesting. Sudas Havra is a meal of consolation. The first meal eaten by the Avelim upon their return from the burial. The Avel is not allowed to use his own food for this meal, but must receive the meal from neighbors and others in the community. The Gemara in Moed Katan is the source for this. It arises from a pasuk when Yechezkel, when his wife was taken from him. Many halachos of Avelus are derived from these psukim, where Hashem instructed Yechezkel to act as a mourner upon the death of his wife, but to change certain standard practices of mourning that should not apply to him. Some of the halachas are derived from what Yechezkel was instructed to do, while others are derived from what Hashem instructed him not to do. Right? So it says in Moed Katan, Amid Amarav, Avel Yom Rishon, Osir Lechol Lechem Mishalo. The first day of his Shiva, because he's an Avel when he comes back from the Kfura, he's also to eat from his own bread. Don't eat bread of anoshim, which the Gemara darshans to mean don't eat your own bread. Rav Yosef Mechalfis who decided ladodi. Rav Yosef, when they exchanged meals, right? Rava sent Rav Yosef his meal, and Rav Yosef sent Rabba his meal. So that's this concept that you should not eat your own. The Rosh side of Yerushalmi reinforces the seriousness of the Zalacha by declaring that a curse will be placed upon neighbors who do not provide the mourner with food for this meal. Yerushalmi, Tavo me'ero l'shchenim, a curse will come to the neighbors, she'etzrichu la'avel echol mishlo, that allowed an avel to eat from his own food. The prohibition to use one's own food extends as well to a married woman whose husband gives her food, as explained in the Torah. Isha nesua she'ira avel. Let's say a married woman becomes an avel. Einei chol lechol suda rishona mishal baila. She should not eat food given to her by her husband. Given shechayv noseah k'mishalotami. Because of the ksuba, there are reciprocal relations in the ksuba. You have to, when she goes out to work, anything she earns belongs to you. In response to that, you are required to provide her mazonos. Her room and board, the responsibility is on you financially. So since there's a din min aksuba that, so the food that her husband gives her is as if it's her food, and she's not allowed to eat her food. She's supposed to eat food that's given to her by somebody else.
So if she cooks something,
She should not eat from her own food.
she cannot eat from her own
Oh, for
food.
the neighbors
But
have to
he's
send
the
her the
one
food.
that's not her. He's the
Even though
one
it's coming from the husband, it's considered hers because of this din of the ksuba, since it's responsibility is on the husband to give her the food.
And why can't they eat themselves? What is the reason? What was the reason why?
It's a
they can't-
pasuk in Yechezkel. Lechem anoshim lo yisoichel. And the Gemara says, based on that, Rav and Rav Yosef exchanged meals. They didn't eat their own food.
Okay.
The Rishonim dispute
Don't eat the bread of men.
whether the injunction for a mourner not to eat his own food applies for the entire day or only the first meal following the burial. According to Tosfos, the mourner may not eat of his own food for the entire day. Says Tosfos in Yod Katan, Yom Rishon Osir Lechol Mishalo, Pirashti Lamala, Afilo Oichel Kama Pamim Ba'osu Yom, the Loktani Suda Rishon. Doesn't say anywhere the first meal means that day. It says Yom Rishon. So if the funeral is 10 o'clock in the morning, it's all the meals of that first day that have to be provided for him. But the Rosh, on the other hand, does limit this prohibition to the first meal alone. On Rav Yudah Marav says the Rosh, Aval b'Yom Rishon Asur Lachol Mishalom Yom Rachmana L'Cheskel Lechem Anoshim L'Soichel Pirish Yom Rishon Suda Rishona. So the Rosh specifically says it's only the first Suda. Shulchan Aruch rules in accordance with the Rosh, not with Tosfos, that the first meal specifically is included in the restriction, but later meals entail no restriction. You could eat from your own food. Says the Shulchan Aruch there, Aval Asur Lachol Mishalom B'Suda Rishona Aval B'Shniya Mutter V'Afilu B'Yom Rishon. U'mitzvah shchenav she'achlu mishalehem. The mitzvah is on the neighbors to feed him. Kedei shelo yochel mishalo. V'yochel echad lachel chaver b'mei evlo. And a person is allowed to feed his friend during his avelus. V'hu yachzer gamkein v'yachilenu b'mei evlo. And then the guy can repay him and feed him during his avelus. U'v'vad shlo yitnu batchila. They shouldn't make a t'nai that this is what we're going to do. I give to you only because you're going to give to me. But it's okay to eventually, share with each other. Now, Jerry asked, what is the reason for this halacha? So the Lavush, right? The Lavush was already after the Ramah, commentary in halacha on the Shulchan Aruch, says, because of Rabbeinu Yerucham was a Rishon, v'hatam, what's the reason for all this? Ki ha'avel doeg v'nenach al-meso. The Avel is worried, he's anxious, he's upset over his loss. Ve'ena choshesh lachlo. He doesn't want to eat. He's not look. He's absent-minded. If he didn't eat, he wouldn't eat. Ki ritzon Halomus gamhu. He wants to die himself. He's depressed. Al kein tziva Hashem yisbarach lacherim shechlu mishalahem. That's why the chiyuv was put on friends, because the friends will make sure he eats. Lefichach hapoiches lo yivchos mesud rishona. At a minimum, you should provide the first meal. Shehu ikar zman meririso. Coming right back from the burial, that's the worst period. Aval suda shniya mutter. Afilu hi biyom rishon. So the levush holds the same way, that if other meals on the first day, he's allowed to eat for himself. Ali nearly taima. Shekoza b'klal nechamahu. The levush gives another reason. It's comfort that he sees he has neighbors and friends who care about him. So it's bolstering him up. Shemar lo'avel shemesimim osal libam. They're thinking about him. And just because they won't dump him now, yes, you have to visit him during Shiva, but perhaps afterwards you're not going to forget about him. This act seems to reinforce the concept that the Avel feels that his friends or his neighbors are going to be loyal to him. Now, what if no one brings food for the Avel? Does he have to fast? He does not need to fast. He's permitted to eat from his own food, says the Taz. When it says, Asr lechol mishalo niradim lo sholchulo o shehu yachid be'ir, let's say he's the only person living in that city, ein chayav l'tzar etzmo shelo lechol klal. He doesn't have to fast. The mitzvah shchenav she'achilu. It's a mitzvah on the neighbors to feed him shelo yachol mishalo shezehu miyuter l'chor. That means, why say that? Ela hakovna the ikar mitzvah l'shchenim shelo yikmu she'yistarach lechol mishalo. The mitzvah is on the neighbors, that by giving food, he won't have to eat from his own. And the Taz is medayik from there that he's allowed to eat from his own food if he has nobody else to give him food. Now the poskim disagree as to whether the prohibition upon the Ovel to eat from his own food applies to drinks and food other than bread, which is normal the full meal. The Yalkut Yosef rules that he is permitted to drink his own tea and coffee, but other foods he should not eat. He says, "Mutter lishtos kos kafe or te mishalo, kodem sudas avra, ve'nochayev lavi kos kafe v'te mishal acher." He doesn't have to bring that from other people. Aval tavshil, a dish, cooked food, or beitz mishalo, osur lo lechol afilu, below pas. Means a lot of people now eat an omelet, eat egg. They don't eat bread with it. So you might think that you could that's considered a meal. You would not be able to eat that from your own. Afilu below pas, even if you weren't eating bread. The custom in many places is that other provides meals for the Ovel for the entire week of Shiva, says the Be'er Heter. The Efshar shezer lefiyesh noagim shemavrin kol Shiva kefi minhag asfardim b'harbe makomos lefi she'ein ha'ovel machin atzmo davar mikoach tiras aveluso. The Ovel is too busy to prepare his food, even the whole week. So therefore, the minig, especially on the Sfardim, is to bring food for the whole week. V'gam kidei shelo levayish mi she'ein lo lozon atzmo shiva yomim. Maybe if somebody was poor, he can't afford to provide food for 7 days. You maybe tulam l'achto. Remember, because he's not going to work for 7 days. You're not allowed to work as an Ovel. And maybe somebody is poor and can't afford to have food on the table. Some people live day to day. We don't understand that, but that is certainly a possibility.
It doesn't mention this, but it happened to me also, where some friends came. They were from Iran or wherever it is, and they brought food like for 50 people, and they laid it on the table, right? Obviously, you see all these people coming in, and they're all fressing you, like it's a party. Like they're going to do that all the time. The question is, are you really allowed to do that? No, right? Are you allowed to go in someone's house?
No, there's
and
a
it's
thing
not
about
for
not.
you, and start eating.
There is
the
also a
cake.
thing about not eating in a noble's house. You shouldn't be eating at a noble's house.
We'll see whether that is. We'll
Are
see.
you allowed to eat what's on the
Let's see what the
table?
halacha says about
Are
it.
you allowed to take a piece of cake or
We'll
some
see.
fruits?
Right now, we're learning that there's a custom among the Sfardim to provide food for 7 days for the Ovel. We haven't said anything whether when visitors come, can they eat from it. The food is for the Ovel because the Ovel is too busy to provide food for himself. Whether if there's an Isser for visitors to come and eat something, we'll see. We'll see. Right now, we learned halacha that right now, we first talked about only providing food for the first meal after coming back from the funeral. That's me'ikar adin, that's the Surah Avra. This is only yesh noagim. That's a din. that he's not allowed to eat from his own food, and the neighbor's supposed to bring food, and there's a klala on the neighbors who don't bring food. That's me'ikar adin. Now the Be'er Heitev brought a minhag that people bring food for the ovel for the whole week. And he said especially the Sephardim. So if the Iranians brought, they had a reason for it. One of the reasons not to embarrass people who don't have food, right? That's what the Rabbeinu Yerucham says. V'alkein gam b'Shabbos mavrin shavelim soimchen al zeh v'lo zeh ein lo ma yochel b'Shabbos. And same thing. Some people rely on that for Shabbos as well. So that's why it's traditional to bring what is traditionally eaten at the Suda Savra. What food is eaten at the Suda Savra? So the Ma'olam Vad Olam describes, based on the Shulchan Aruch, some of the common customs of the food eaten at this meal. Ikar Suda Savra belechem, right? So bread, v'nogel achil pas, o ka'achim in beitzim kashos, wafers with hard-boiled eggs, o adoshim lentils, shehem meichel avelim. It's considered mourner's food. Hamachalim agulim, those things that are round like eggs or lentils, misamlim es magal achayim, the cycle of life, ves avelus. Shehi gagal chozer ba'olam. It's something that comes back to hit everybody. Lemacholim agulim ein peh, and these an egg or a lentil bean, they don't have a mouth. K'ma ovel she'ein lo peh. The ovel has no mouth to say anything. He's quiet. She'yoshev v'doimin machmatzarav aveloso. He's quiet. V'nochum lasis lavelim es habeitzim kishehin klufos. You should give them the eggs peeled. Kidei shlo yira evel karavosim. Because if he's got to tear through he's going to look like he's a glutton. Now yesh hanohagim lishtos yayin b'suda savra. That first meal, some have a minute to drink wine. K'moshe kosuf tnu shechar la'oivei v'yayin l'moyin nafesh. Odom acher boitzeis apas. Somebody else should make the bracha on the bread. V'noisen prusa b'yada oivil. And then give him a shtickle, like on Shabbos, where you give a piece. That's how it should be done. Then anoshim mavrim le'ish. Men should bring the food for a man. V'noshim mavris le'isha. K'shyesh avel v'avelus ba'oso cheder. But ein la'akbi, because when they're male and female avel in the same room, then that's okay. B'suda savra, ein ovel mitzraf l'zimin asara. If there's only 9 people in the ovel, they can't say Elokeinu. You can't add the ovel into the zimun. V'rotzu shegam lo yeshvu l'shlosha. And it's preferable that 3 people don't sit together in order not to be obligated in zimun at all. Doing zimun in the house of the ovel is something that should be avoided. We do the same thing, by the way, the Sudas Hafsaka by Tisha B'Av. We also don't eat in a group, right? We eat singularly, boidedim, also, so we shouldn't come to zimun. B'shar Sudas Mezamin Mezamin Alav. But at the rest of the meals, he can join in the zimun and he may lead the zimun. So it's only the Sudas Havra where that occurs. Now, there is a special version of Birkas HaMazon that is mentioned by the Shulchan Aruch that some recite in a Beis HaOvel. That means the Ovel says it in others. The Sefer Ma'olam Vad Olam details the additions which are found in the Zimun at the end of the 3rd bracha. And in the middle of the 4th bracha, after Huhetiv Umeitiv Huhetiv Yanu. So he says, Bezimun Oimrim Nevarech Menachem Avelim Shachal Mishalov. V'onim Baruch Menachem Avelim Shachal Mishalov Tuvachenu. The bracha Shlishis, right, the Ritzei, but right before the Vnei Yerushalayim, there's a Nachem. Just instead of saying Ritzei, or saying a Yalav Yavo, you say a Nachem, just like we say on Tisha B'Av. Nachem Hashem Elkeinu Savelei Yerushalayim V'Savelim HaMisablim B'Avel Hazeh. The Chamim Ma'avelim V'Usmeichim Yegoinim Ka'omer Ki'ish Asher Imot T'nachmenu Ke'anochi Amchem V'Yerushalayim T'nachmenu Baruch Ato Hashem Menachem Tzion V'Nei Yerushalayim. That you say before, or that you say instead of the Bonei Yerushalayim. Then the brachos revius, after you say Huhetiv Umeitiv, Achrei Huhetiv Umeitiv Huhetiv Lanu Mosifim HaMelech HaChai HaTov HaMeitiv Kel Emes Shofet B'Tzedek Lokech Nefoshes B'Mishpat Shalit B'Olamol Asot B'Kirtzono Kichot Rechav Mishpat. Right, all of his ways are justice. V'nachtu imo v'avodav v'chol anachon u'v'chol anachtu chayim l'hodisol u'varcho. Goyder protest Yisrael. He sort of closes up the fences that have been torn open. Hu yigdar sapir tzazu me'aleinu u'me'al ovel zel chayim l'sholom. Many contemporary authorities, including the Gesher HaChaim, note that the practice among a large portion of Ashkenazim today is not to recite these editions. Has anyone? I've never seen these editions recited in the Beis Avel. Okay. Let's start.
It's interesting that further Ian,
Avelus 2.
about further in Ian, there is the cremation according to Allah. It looks very interesting. Cremation according
Yeah,
to
in
Allah.
further Iyun,
Yeah.
on page 132 is cremation.
You know, Lubavitch is very much into Rambam. Does that mean they hold like Rambam and Avelus? No.
No,
Just because they like the Rambam doesn't mean it must be.
right. No. There's a Shulchan Aruch Harav, the Balatanya, the first Shulchan Aruch, wrote a very authoritative Shulchan Aruch. We use it. It's cited many times in the Tzurba
It's
M'Rabanan.
only partial, right?
No, the Shulchan Aruch Harav is a
Tanya
complete.
and-
No, the Balatanya wrote, it's called Shulchan Aruch Harav, that's the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, and it's very authoritative, and they follow most of the psukim there. But then, the Shulchan Aruch Harav follows pretty much the Shulchan Aruch, the regular Shulchan Aruch. They are Ashkenazim. Okay. In the previous shur, we're now on Hilchos Avelus Beis, page 145. In the previous year, we began studying some of the halachos that apply immediately after a person experiences loss of relative. In this year, we'll focus on the stages known as Shiva, Shloshim, and Yud Beis Chodesh. The Shiva describes the 7-day period following the burial, that is the most intense of the 3 periods, and contains the most halachic restrictions, which corresponds to the fact that the loss is fresh and painful. The Shloshim refers to the rest of the 30-day period from the time of burial, following the Shiva, when some aspects of the halach of Avelus still apply, and the period of Yud Beis Chodesh describes the 12-month of Avelus that applies when mourning for the loss of a parent, where some of the Shloshim restrictions continue for the entire year. It is worthwhile to emphasize again what was mentioned in the introduction to the previous year, that the goal of these halachos is not to impose numerous detailed restrictions in order to make life even more difficult for a person who has just experienced a terrible loss. Rather, it seems that the goal is to allow a person to express his feelings of sorrow and mourning in a manner that demonstrates how life cannot go on normally for at least a short time until a person comes to terms with the loss. The primary source for the rules of Shiva is found in Moed Katan, which lists the activities that a mourner is forbidden to do during this time.
Is it for himself, or is it for the one that lost, or you're lost? Who are you doing the Shiva for? For yourself, or for the one that passed
So
away?
some of it we said is a covet to the maze. Certain things are a covet to
some
the
is
maze.
for yourself.
The aninas, remember we said yesterday, last time, that the fact that you make yourself potter from all mitzvahs, that's a covet to the maze. Showed with the, now like Walter said, this period of time is to show you what a loss this was and to emphasize all of that. Now, by the way, we should note that there are a number of activities that a mourner may not do that are not mentioned here and have not been addressed in this year. These include wearing tefillin on the first day of Shiva only. So the first day of Shiva he does not wear tefillin, but afterwards he does. Laundering clothes, he doesn't launder clothes. Buying and wearing new clothes, which is a restriction. Cutting nails, sitting on a chair, leaving one's home, changing one's regular seat in a shul, and taking trips with a large group of people. So these are just other things they mentioned because it was not mentioned here. So it says in Moed Katan, Torah Rabbanan, Elu dvarim she'avel aser behen. Aser b'malacha, you can't go to work. Uvrachitza, you can't wash. Uvesicha, you can't anoint yourself. Uvetash b'shamita, relations. V'nilas asandal, wearing leather shoes. V'aser likros b'torah u'neviim u'ksuvim. U'lashanas b'mishnah, learn mishnah b'medrash u'v'alachis. U'v'talmud u'v'agodos. V'mayu rabim tzrichim lo, eino nimna. If the public, let's say he's the Rav in town, he's the only one who can teach, so he's allowed to do so. We'll now examine some of these
But in
prohibitions.
his own house, or he can go out of the house to do
Can't go
so?
out of the house.
So how do we allow them to say Mishnayos between Mincha and Mari and all that? That's the,
No, but it's begetter the maze. Remember, we're going to see, you're allowed to learn Torah that relates to Hilchos Avelus and like Gittin, like all the things you can learn on Tisha B'Av. So when they give a hesped, right? They talk about the maze. They read Mishnayos with the name.
okay.
Yeah, that's a good question, but it's related to the maze. You can't give a pilpul on tzvei dinim. Okay, according to the Gemara, it's forbidden for an ovel to continue in his regular job during the week of Shiva. If this individual owns a business, this of course raises an important practical question: may he hire someone else to run the business, or have one of his partners run the business during this time? The Gemara in Moed Katan addresses this.
So there's really 4 period of turnover, or for
So-
example, there's 4.
Onain,
Right, and there's
Shiva,
only 7 days,
Shiva,
right? And then there's
Shloshim,
Shiva,
and then Yud Beis
Shiva.
Chol. Yud Beis
No,
Chol.
Yud Chodesh.
Hmm?
Yud
12
Chodesh,
months.
12 months.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, you got
So
Shiva.
we dealt pretty well with Aninos, right? We got a much
Right.
better understanding, I think, of Aninos, because there's a lot of questions out there. What is an onain? What exactly is an onain, and when, and how, whatever. I think we got a pretty good understanding of that. And now we'll go through, hopefully, the same thing regarding Shiva. Marion Breder Ravin, Umar Drei Racha Breder Rava, Havlehu Gamla de Toira. They were partners in 2 oxen. Isri Bey Milsa, B'mar Breder of Acha Breder Rav. He lost a family member. Upaska Lagamle. So that it was a team of oxen. 2 oxen are put into a thing,
Yoke, yeah.
into a yoke. So he removed his oxen from the team. Omer Ravashi, Gava Rabba Kamar Brei Ravacha Ovid Achi. A great man did that? Nehid lives Didei L'chayish, Adechem L'chayish. Fine, he's not concerned about his own loss. What about his partner? It means the fact that one ox has been removed, it's damaged his partner. Vatanya. If these things already had been rented out, they are allowed to continue working. So it sounds like Ravashi is holding that he didn't have to take his oxen out of there.
Right.
And so the Gemara answers, "Who's sover Adam Choshev Shiny?" He figured, I'm a Gadol Ador. For me, I'm going to treat myself different. But Me'ikar Adin, he wouldn't have had to do that. So according to the Gemara's explanation, Mar, son of Ravacha, removed his ox from the team while mourning only because he felt that an important person must be especially stringent due to how others are going to view it. However, it would seem from here that it is normally permitted for the partner of a mourner to continue running the business. And on the other hand, the Yerushalmi indicates that this is prohibited. Says the Yerushalmi, Shnei Achim, 2 brothers, or Shnei Shutafim, 2 partners, Shnei Tabachim, 2 butchers, Shnei Chanvanim, 2 grocers, She'iru Le'echel Ben Davar, Hare Elu Noi Alen Eschanusa. They have to close the shops. It means if guy really is in a partnership with someone,
Yeah, but
everything has to
partner,
be
How
closed.
could you do that to the partner? The
No,
partner
they-
needs
Okay.
a partner.
So Jerry, we just quoted the Bavli that said you don't have to do that, that you can't cause financial loss to your partner. We've just now quoted the Yerushalmi that says that you have to close the store even though your partner is going to suffer. Now, the Ravid, right? So the Ravid was Rav Avram Miposker, who is the major fighter against the Rambam. So in the Rambam, we'll quote an halacha, and the Ravid goes to task against the Rambam. Where did the Rambam get this? Because many times the Rambam brings halacha, he doesn't bring you the source. Where did he do? And there is no Gemara that we know. So there are famous, fantastic battles between the Ravid and the Rambam. So the Ravid is referred to many times by either the Tur, the Beis Yosef, the Shulchan Aruch, etc. So the Ravid, cited by the Beis Yosef, explains that in truth, there is no machlokes between the Bavli and Yerushalmi. Yerushalmi, which forbids it, refers to work done in public, while the Bavli, which permits it, describes work done in private, which is more lenient. So, for example, the 2 partners, maybe they had a private field where they did their own work, and that's not seen in it's not public work, so that's permitted. But if it was like the grocers, that they were serving the public,
Restaurant.
so that's going to be a problem. But Ravid Hikshem Yerushalma Agmar Didon, right? The Ravid brought the Yerushalmi against and showed the steer in the Bavli. V'tiritz Tevadai Noel and Chanusa. Ve'ein Hashutif V'sasik Be'esek Hashutfas before Hesia. So if they have a public market, they've got to close it. And the partner cannot, in public, run the business. At home, he can run the business. Or if it could be, I don't know how it would work. But let's say they're in hedge funds or something. So if the guy does it privately, he can continue running the business. That's at least what the Beis Yosef is going to say. Even though they divide the profits. And the Ovel is going to get some of the profits. A donkey or a camel or a boat shemuchkarim biyanacha, that are rented out to other people. Let's say they're partners. Hilkach lo havalei lemifseki legamli. He doesn't have to separate his camel from the team. He
So
can stay there.
If Ben's father dies, can Jerry sell ice cream?
That's what we're getting up to.
Okay.
Umeisi got him chashav shiny. V'islei kala. Means if the public sees it, it's going to be a problem. If there's murmuring and people say, "Oh, look, this guy's making business, even though he's an Avelus," so that's going to be a problem. Now, this is just beginning this sugya. This is a very interesting halachic sugya, which we're going to complete next week. So 147 is where we left off.
You have 9, can you do me?
Let's see if we can get some.